It's been such a long time. Really excited. Yay! And also big shout out to people online because we're doing a hybrid event tonight. We have people joining us from everywhere. But before we start, we want to do a quick land acknowledgement as we've been doing the last few events. So I'd like to acknowledge that TOTIA, this is the place that we call now Montreal, is historically known as a meeting place for First Nations people. So we wish to honor these people by recognizing that this event is taking place on unceded traditional Indigenous territory. Now, with that being said, like I said, super excited to have you guys with us tonight. We have a great event with three segments. And we have our sponsors that are here to say a few words as to why they're supporting Fintech Drinks and Fintech Cadence. So really happy to have everyone with us tonight. Great turnout, and online as well. Hi. For those who are joining us online, keep the chat animated. I hope that you were able, I know it's a bit early, but it's fine somewhere. So I hope you were, we're starting to drink here, so I hope the people at home also started their apéro pretty early with that. And cheers to everyone who is in the room with us. We love to grab drinks, whatever they are. Cocktail, mocktails, tequila shots for the wild ones. But we're not against iced coffee either, we don't judge. So, all right, so tonight, the way it's going to work out. 3 segments. The first one is going to be a return on 2021 with Layat Hadi and Jan Art. Then the second segment is going to be about collaboration in fintech with Dina Ismail. And finally, we're going to discuss the state of funding in fintech with Sean Merritt. So we'll stay with us the whole time. I mean, there's no reasons for you guys to go. And also, there's going to be networking again after the event. All right, so the agenda for tonight, I'm going to do the intro, Fintech Cadence. If you guys don't know who we are, I doubt you don't, but just in case, I'll let you know what we do. We'll get into the discussion and working with Zoom after. Fintech Cadence. So we're a nonprofit started out of Montreal in 2017. We are Canada's fintech hub, and we built Canada's future of fintech leaders. So we focus on 3 pillars. The first one is education. So we educate people on fintech and do the promotion of the fintech sector in Canada. We support early stage fintech startups. You guys know it's not easy to get started, so we're the go-to people for that. And finally, collaboration. We do a lot of work collaborating with the different stakeholders in the ecosystem. So the way we're able to do that, we have 4 programs in the year. So the IH Lab is a 6-month incubation program that actually just ended earlier this month. If you did not have the opportunity to watch it online, you can go on our YouTube page and rewatch it there. We also have our extension program coming back again in 2022. It's a 3-month incubation program for a fintech startup. And our Formathon is also an open innovation competition that we host every year since 2016, so even before we're officially started. And finally, our fintech certificate, which is coming back in January 2022. So 7 courses, 35 hours to introduce professionals as well as university students alike to the world of fintech. So you can grab your tickets now for the early bird pricing. I mean, why not offer the gift of fintech for Christmas, you guys? So grab your tickets now. Early bird pricing ends midnight December. The other things that we do, 3 events, 3 types of events that we host every year. So Fintech Drinks 5 times. Nights serves as a great platform to discuss fintech topics and networking opportunities for the fintech community. We have our university series that serve as introducing students to the world of fintech. And finally, our career fair, which again is coming back in January. January's gonna be busy. If you guys have job posting, call me after this. I'll be right here, and we can set you up for a career fair in January. Now, career fair is possible thanks to our amazing sponsors. The first one I would like to invite to say a few words is our platinum sponsor, EY. And from EY, please welcome Hélène Hainaut, which is the innovation specialist.
to be back in presence and not just like virtually for the Fintech drinks. My name is Ellen Eno. I lead financial services innovation across Canada and pretty much everything around Fintech, so you've probably seen my face before. EY is once again super proud to be the platinum sponsor for Fintech drinks. We really believe into building the community from the ground up, supporting young entrepreneurs into their Fintech journey, and personally supporting a lot more women in Fintech. So please, hey, thank you. Please enjoy tonight, and we also have a lot of job postings available. So if you want to work for EY, just reach out to me. Thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you, Ellen. All right, the second sponsor I'd like to invite to us is our gold sponsor, Station Fintech. And from Station Fintech, please welcome Mathieu Lambert, who is the Fintech
Everyone. Good to be back. To see you all in the community here in Montreal, and I think I might have heard that our people from Toronto as well here. So glad to see all fintech enthusiasts in person. Finally, after almost 2 years, it's great. I'm Mathieu Lambert. I'm the director of fintech development for Finance Montreal and the Montreal Fintech Station. My main message today is that we're currently recruiting startups in the sustainable finance and ESG in financial services space. So startups have until December 9th to apply. It's the second cohort that is presented by the TMX group, and we're currently recruiting until December 9th to apply, and the cohort will start in January 2022. And just also saying that we're organizing each year the Canada Fintech Forum that you may have heard of. It was 2 weeks back. It was great to, thanks. It was more like producing a TV show this year. Anyways, for you guys, I hope you enjoyed it. So come talk to me, people I know and people I don't know as well. And have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mathieu. We also have another gold sponsor, Expertis, who's been acquired by IBM last year. They're great supporters of us, so it's important for me to mention their support as well. So now, enough of me talking, at least for now. I would like to welcome Ayal Ahadi, who's the Executive Director of Fintech Cadence, and John Mark, who's the founding managing partner at Whole Exchange, to come to the first topic.
All right, how's everybody doing? Perfect. I see the rowdy crowd is right here. That's what I'm sensing. I'm also going to say that might be the Toronto crowd is right here as well.
Also next to the bar, closest to the bar. Correlation?
I think the strategy makes sense. So thank you guys again for being here with us tonight. We cannot emphasize to you how excited we are to see you in person. I've heard a couple of jokes of how everyone's seen everybody on the top half and didn't realize how tall everybody was. So it's really great so that you guys are able to see how tall the fintech ecosystem really is. I think, Matthew, you lead the chart there, right? The tallest that we have. Perfect. So we won't take up too much time. We're just kind of here to talk to you guys about the high-level bits of information that have been happening in fintech. Of course, we are the precursor to two phenomenal speakers, Lena and Sean, who will be joining us after. But you just gotta listen through what we think about fintech first before you get to hear them. All right, so Jan, let's start with you, quickly introducing yourself. And I think you're part of an organization called Whole Exchange, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct. We will be doing a nice little show later, so hopefully see many of you there. But Whole Exchange, a little bit about us. We now grew out an advisor base. We see a lot of great advisors in the audience as well. So it's really hard to see with this light on, but with those advisors, we've been able to find now 35 investments to date. Really Canada's most active seed stage fintech fund. We look for companies within Canada, so 12 that are in Canada, but another big portion outside, and really trying to bring the top companies into Canada, because we really believe that a great way to improve the talent and drive Canada forward is bringing in top entrepreneurs to establish themselves here. So that's really what we've been about, and hopefully continue to do so.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. And of course, I mean, we're being a bit facetious, but obviously Holt has been doing a big fintech day today. We're really happy and excited to be part of it, as well. And like you said, most of the people here actually know or have some kind of relationship with Bolt. So we'll be seeing you guys at the Fintech show later today, where we'll also be listening to all of your portfolio, your current portfolio pitch. Perfect. So let's get quickly into the high level things of what's have been happening. I don't think we can talk about Fintech in 2021 without highlighting the fact that there have been quite a few raises happening, which is really exciting because some of them we've been working with from the very, very early stage. And some of them we have absolutely nothing to do with, but we will definitely take credit for. So that's something that we're very excited about. But just a quick bit of statistics. I mean, I know we've been talking about how Fintech has been growing quite significantly and the raises are quite large. Just a quick snapshot. In Montreal alone in Q2, the startups raised $711 million. Now, not all of that was Fintech, but that's a huge amount. And of that, yes, that deserves a woo. Perfect. We're getting rowdy here as well, so I love it. That's perfect. But of that, which by the way was a 37% increase from last year as well, so quite a significant amount. And of that, 20% of those 23 deals were actually Fintech deals. So we can see that the Montreal ecosystem is not only getting the recognition that it deserves, and Toronto as well, getting the recognition it deserves in terms of the startup, but that investors are taking this ecosystem quite seriously and looking at the startups that have been working here for quite a long time actually. And one of which made a big announcement and acquisition this year was Mocha, formerly Milo. And you knew Phil from the early days. And we actually have Jennifer McDonald here with us today. So I hope you don't mind, I'm going to shout out Jennifer McDonald. But Jen, tell us a little bit about what you've seen as Milo and now Mocha and Moco now, I suppose, through that position.
I almost feel like Jennifer should be telling the story, but it was fantastic. Like those early days, it's just great. Like this next wave of founders that came through. With pretty humble beginnings before, the First Brothers and others, trying to kind of get back and kick off that next generation of entrepreneurship. And then Phil Barrar used to be like a coach at District 3 at the time. He had had his own a couple exits there. They were kicked off with their backing to get started. It was a tough time back then to really start companies and unlock a lot of things. For instance, they were originally called BankMe. I think that was before Jennifer's time. And Jennifer would have fixed that as the COO and said, no, you can't do that. They had to change the name within 30 days type of thing. They got their portfolio license revoked at some point, so they had to find a way to be able to make these trades. So they had found a way to do that. They got a great investment from a strategic investor through Tactico at the time to be able to pull that off. So really overcome some huge hurdles for them that enabled them from there to really launch. I mean, what they were building at the time was the Acorns model, and I think what many of them looked at is this exists in other places. We should have this in Canada. It's very obvious that this should exist. The timing was perfect afterwards. I mean, I would argue it helped in many ways because a lot of disposable cash available to be able to invest in that. But again, I'll over to Jennifer. She's nodding, so she's saying, I think I'm on the right track. It led to a great acquisition opportunity there. And I still think they have an awesome opportunity to continue going forward. I guess it makes sense for them to go and exit at that point. I do think both those founders are going to go off to phenomenal things after. I think they have some unfinished business, which is fantastic for the ecosystem. So if they get acquired, I'm excited to see what they're going to do next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're keeping our eye out on the next steps of all of the people that work there. Not to put you on the spot, Jennifer, but there you go. Another really big acquisition, or excuse me, a big raise was Nesto. They raised $76 million in a Series B, so that was quite significant. How many of you guys here have heard of Nesto before? All right. Well, then there's no need to talk more about it. But ultimately, what's really significant about Nesto is, again, it's that recognition that a company that's offering simplification in financial services is getting, we're seeing consumers drive more towards them. For those two or three people who are not so familiar with Nesto, they are a mortgage platform, just so you guys don't black out on me. But they, like I said, they are showing that simplification of one or two services really does drive consumers towards them, and more importantly, as we saw with their Series B raise, we're seeing that investors are taking them seriously and are placing their bets on them as well. I'm going to move on quickly because we don't have too much time, and I see Nina is looking at me. And so to another really quick success story here with Flinks. Now, I think Flinks made some quite significant news. Has everyone heard of the Flinks news at this point, right? Perfect. So they were now part of National Bank. Any thoughts there, Jen, on that acquisition?
Just thinking, actually, one of the founders also went through District 3 at the time. But so if you start your idea at District 3, then you move on and you get your next one type of thing. So great development. They're more than that. But fantastic for them. It was again, another timing thing where it was just needed in the ecosystem. And like we already saw the Plaid in the US at that time. We needed something in Canada. There was no real options to help build stuff. Screen scraping options were costly and timely unsecure, and so there was a great opportunity to build on top of that platform. I think it was really interesting to see that financial institutions saw the opportunity to partner with and invest. They had a lot of different, same with as well, the different financial institutions that did invest in that. I think it speaks to the warmth of the ecosystem and then the strategic goal by the NOW team to really take a pretty good stake in there as they're going forward. And I mean, it speaks to the value of the platform and the data that they've built. So yeah, it's just an exciting story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key takeaway for 2021 when it comes to investments is that it's also really key to spend a lot of energy and a lot of time developing founders in the early stages, because the results that we're seeing today is really the fruits and labor of the whole ecosystem over the last 4 or 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. I normally embellish years just to be more impactful, but really what we're seeing is that what's really key is if we want to see more success stories coming out of Canada for fintech, all of the various stakeholders, investors, financial institutions, supporters like yourselves here today really need to look and see, okay, who are the early stage fintechs and how can we engage with them right now to either give them access to our network or to give them access to potential investors as well. So I think that's really the key takeaway from our side. I don't know if you have anything else to add on any key takeaways for startups.
I think it's a wicked time right now. We're seeing more like the big quitting or the big, leaving of the jobs right now. The US is at an all-time high for it. Any good crisis brings out a plethora of opportunities. And I think there's a plethora of new founders asking themselves where they want to spend their time and wanting purpose in what they're building. And I think we're going to see another wave on the back of this. So keep your eyes out right now. Like, it's a great time to be investing. We're certainly very bullish on the space. I think people always wonder when the music's going to stop to this. But I mean, if anyone's in this room, I think we all agree that there is just too much to build at this point. Software continues to eat the world. We're going to keep water riding. Yes, there'll be cyclical waves up and down, but big picture, they're certainly solving a lot of great solutions, a lot of great opportunities.
Absolutely. I'm going to move on very quickly now to some other key topics that we discussed. So we know obviously investment in fintech has grown. It's really cool to see Canada take its place globally. But here's a place where we still need to work on maybe catching up a little bit, and that's in open banking space. So I know this year we've seen the Canadian consultation happening around integrating open banking. Well, late last year, early this year. I think this is the 3rd or 4th consultation that they've had, if I'm not mistaken, as well. We're also seeing various stakeholders, including Open Banking Initiative in Canada, an organization out of Toronto, really working on putting pressure, polite pressure, if we can call it that, on the Canadian government to speed up integration of open banking. And we're seeing that a lot of fintechs, Flinks being one of them as well, and Owl, if I'm not mistaken, too. I'm not going to speak on your behalf, but when they're interviewing you later up on stage, you can say whether you're for or against open banking. But we're seeing startups really start to put the pressure on on the Canadian government to say, look, we're going to fall behind. We're seeing a lot of international startups have an advantage because they know how to operate and navigate the open banking space. Everyone in the ecosystem is tired about talking about when we're getting open banking. So we're really starting to see that external pressure happening a lot more. And on top of that, we're also starting to see the conversation happen around educating consumers so that when open banking happens, it's not just going to be detrimental. It's not going to just be to the advantage of startups, but also making sure that we don't harm consumers in that process as well. Anything there, Jan, around open banking?
I still think it's frustrating that we're not there yet. So it's like we can paint a rosy picture and say that we had the Canadian approach, did a bunch of roundtables and looked at the data and came up with some reports, and then doing more roundtables, and who knows when we're actually going to implement this thing. But it's a little frustrating. Like, I mean, in Europe right now, substantially well ahead, and they're building technologies on this. And the more that the faster you're there, the more you're playing with it, the more. We saw some great companies, we invest internationally, we saw some great open banking companies, we can't invest. What are we gonna do? We're gonna bring them here and say, set up and we'll see you in 5 years type of thing. Like, by then, like, those companies are gonna be big. By the time we get ourselves set up, those companies can come in and then establish themselves. We're missing out on the opportunity, right, to learn through it. I just find, like, it's a conservative nature of Canada trying to be too risk averse in this process. And it's holding us back. And it's actually hurting us in many ways. Like, the way that we look at a digital identity, why don't we have a proper one that we can streamline things, to increase security? And we're behind other nations, and other nations are now using it in their governments from voting, from secure access. It's like hundreds of countries that are well advanced right now. So, I mean, I think we got to keep voicing it and pushing it forward. It's a tough one because it's a challenging thing to understand. But we just gotta keep putting the pressure on there and keep, it's happening naturally. Some would say it's already here, obviously, but I think there's a lot more that we need, gotta keep pushing to get done here.
Yeah, absolutely. And very quickly, I'll just say, I know we're very skeptical around this, but I do know that there's a lot of regulators, some of which may be in the room here today, that are trying to see how they can integrate open banking quicker. So I think just the more and more we speak about it, hopefully we address that frustration jam that many of us are feeling in the ecosystem. All right, let's hop on really quickly to what I'm going to call the sexiest topic of the night, cryptocurrencies. Yes, I'm going to be that bold enough to say that. The one crypto guy, Alice. So I think about 3.5 years ago, although with COVID, I don't remember time anymore, but we were talking about crypto slowing down in Canada, or maybe not a lot of people, or more people being skeptical, not a lot of people engaging with it. And I think if you were part of those conversations with us, I won't call out any names, we were really wrong. I think we're starting to see crypto taking off quite strongly again. We're seeing that energy speed up again. We're seeing a lot of conversations around NFTs. Again, I'm going to ask Alice to wave, so if you're interested in NFTs, go talk to him. He's really super passionate and very knowledgeable about it. But we're also seeing with the Wealth Simple announcement last week, with them opening their own crypto wallet as well. So we're starting to see a lot more consumer fintechs address and integrate cryptocurrencies as well as part of that. Any quick thoughts there, Dan?
Quick thoughts.
Quick thoughts, because we're on a time here.
I gotta move forward here. I mean, it's moving. It's not going away. Like, you gotta get on this train. You gotta figure out how to do it. Again, it's one of those things. You gotta play with it so you can figure out how it works. I think, there's still a lot of scams out there. Most recently, the most interesting one was what's that show? Popular show, Netflix. Squid Game. Yeah, so you gotta do your homework. You gotta know who the founders are. You gotta have a white paper, like kind of tick, tick, tick. Otherwise, it's gonna be scam, $2 million gone. So that's still happening. Like we used to call this ICO at the time. Now we're seeing kind of the rise of NFTs, and there's still beautiful technology that's there, but there's just tons to build. I mean, I look at, for instance, one of our portfolio companies, Austin, Concilium Crypto. If you're in the house, I can't see it all, but he's been building like infrastructure almost 3.0, and some of the stuff he plugs in, all these exchanges, great data for trading. It's just too far advanced. So he's like, I'm just going to trade on this myself, and he's crushing returns right now because there's just not enough liquidity in the market. So he's able to take advantage and make wicked returns right now. It's like, this is almost like a little more basic, but there's a lot to be built right now, which is exciting. But it's still frustrating when I look at, like Canada's actually like going the wrong direction right now in terms of this regulation. Project Jasper. Does anyone know Project Jasper? We were world leaders, right? Like 10, 15 years ago, when we said, like, let's look at blockchain, how we can implement this for settlements and banking infrastructure. And what do? We said, well, we don't want to get the funds in, so we just gave away. All these banks from around the world came in. Our crypto people like, oh, Canada, like Project Jasper, good on you. And we want to be a follower. We want to wait for a bunch of other nations, not just, and then if you're last, you're too far behind. Like, why are we giving away the research, subsidizing the research for other nations to go and surpass that? So, not that, to our American friends themselves, we can also work with you there. I'm sure there's others from out of town. But, I just feel like there's just a missed opportunity in Smart Nation, and we're just not understanding it to a point where one of our other companies, Reed's from the house, we have to like work on the framing. It's distributed ledger technology, or we have to say it's digital assets, because as soon as we say blockchain, we say crypto, we're getting the bank account still shut down. We're getting like, oh, we can't touch your crypto. Okay, well, I'm not going to get the debate whether or not we should get the crypto right now. I got Pascal Ivan, like it's all 100% pro crypto, but still, it's frustrating where we are right now. So I think there's a lot more to do.
Absolutely, and I think the key takeaway is invest in Dogecoin. Right? Yes, now I know who the crypto people are. Excellent. All right, guys. We're going to kind of wrap it up here. Jan, I know you have your dinner to go to, but like we said, Jan is going to be again at the stage upstairs later on for the FinTech show. We have 2 phenomenal speakers coming up, so I'm going to thank you very much, Jan, for your time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the key highlights of what have been happening this year, and I'm going to hand the mic over to your MC, Nina.
Thank you so much, John and Maya. Little COVID transition here. So I guess I have to entertain you while I'm doing this transition, but one better thing I can do is introduce our next speaker. So Lina Ismail, she is currently leading the MT Venture which is a division of McCarthy Tetro, and she's the CEO and co-founder of the Catherine Wheel. It's an advisory and investment firm that works with small to mid-sized businesses in financial services and retail, specifically e-commerce, and they work to transform their businesses through sustainable and company-wide change. I'm super excited to have Lina with us. I'm a bit fangirling. Thank you so much. Lina, I'm going to let you take the pleasure to be. Right? We're not used to our in-person movements. Lost a little bit of our grace, spending all this time at home. All right, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Lina, it's funny, it's Lina and Lina. All right, the dynamic duo. Glad Jennifer loves it. All right, so we just heard from Layan and Jan, their top stories in fintech. We had a great chat before this evening. I wanted to know your favorite stories in fintech in 2021, and please tell us why as well.
Well, it's funny because I felt like Leanne gave all the answers I was about to give, but I'm going to still, speak to those points because I think that this was a really exciting year, an exciting 2 years in tech, and specifically fintech. And I say that not only to indicate that, all the comments that Jan was making about Canada and our lagging, viewpoint as well as action that we're taking around progressive in certain areas, there was still a lot of activity. And so I think it's fair to mention that. And so I would say the first for me as a theme is open banking. I don't think as a country we made enough progress, but I think there were quite a few, companies that have made tremendous progress and have actually created a lot of opportunities for other companies to follow. And in particular, I'm talking about sort of banking as a service and the platform play. I think that's really exciting. I think the ability for these companies to partner, so like the Finaptics, the Sinteras, et cetera, they have the opportunity to pull together to provide really robust infrastructure for those challenger banks, for the neobanks, as well as for the incumbents. And so I think that's a really exciting point, and I would say that that's something that we have to continue to watch. And I would expect to see a lot more innovation in the space and a lot more funding. I would say number 2 is the amount of funding that we saw globally in fintech, not just Canada. So it was about $91.5 billion that was invested in fintech, and that was double last year. So I can, that's a good, point around the growth that we're still continuing to see, and that's really, I think, what's going to continue to propel a lot more growth over the years to come. I think there's quite a bit of demand, not only from consumers, but from other businesses for embedded finance, and that's where I think we're going to see more and more companies coming out with solutions that will be embedded within e-commerce, within health tech, within ed tech. Every one of those sectors is going to see a fintech component within it. And I think that really lends to when we look at the customer journey and what we expect as consumers, we want that seamless experience end to end. And so we're going to end up really expecting that of the companies that we do business with, and that's where you're going to see a lot of that integration, which is exciting. And that's going to drive our growth. And then lastly, the crypto space. I mean, I think it's exciting to see not only the number of cryptocurrency exchanges. That's super important. I mean, that's infrastructure that's going to continue to allow consumers to get access to cryptocurrencies and make investments. We've also seen it in the investment management space. We're seeing a lot of new ETF type products being launched by incumbent asset managers that are wrappers around cryptocurrency portfolios. And that they're giving, let's say, a little bit more managed risk around access to cryptocurrencies like Ether, Bitcoin, et cetera. And then I would say, lastly, just like the overall, inclusion of blockchain technology and the advancements that we're seeing. And it's funny, I think back to 2015 when I was involved in the industry and in the crypto and blockchain space at the days of like Vitalik Buterin, with Joe Lubin. They started Consensus. That was a company that was very much focused on building on the Ethereum platform. And in those days, they were trying to figure out the use cases. How can we take this technology and apply it to use cases within industries like financial services? And I had the pleasure of working with them at that time and with my team when I was part of one of the banks. And, it was really exciting to see what we could create, but it was still very early stages. We're trying to figure things out. So to see where we have gone to now, I think we're just gonna see a much more accelerated pace with the adoption of blockchain tech across the board. And so that's really exciting. So those are my three sort of big themes and takeaways from 2021.
Thank you so much, Lena. It was super exciting year, so lots to say about that. I want to shift a little bit the conversation from the government perspective. And I'd like to hear from you, what do you think that the government is contributing in terms of like supporting innovation in our ecosystem, supporting the startups, even more so during difficult times such as COVID? What do you think the roles that they have been playing, whether good or bad, or that they should be playing?
So I would say they're not performing where they should be and where other governments have been during this period. And I would say Senator Colin Deegan has been pretty outspoken about this, and others have as well. My friend Sue Britton. And I think if you look at even what happened in the United States before the last election, there was a lot of programs and effort, I would say across the aisle between Republicans and Democrats, to foster greater involvement of fintechs in the process of funding small to mid-sized businesses with loans and lending products. They got rid of a lot of the red tape and the, I would say, the hindrances that are created inherently within our systems that would have kept them out. They made it much more, feasible for them to be involved, and because they were in a situation where they needed that. And they needed the ability to participate and collaborate with fintechs to be able to accelerate and also to be able to just support the economy during such a difficult time where there was much more heavy reliance on digital channels. And so I'm not going to say that the United States, is an exemplary model of, what government should be doing when we talk about collaboration and innovation. But it's one thing to say, when we look at our Canadian government, I didn't see much happen in the way of actually creating new paths and channels for those fintechs to be able to support the government in distributing, payments digitally and making sure that we can expand in the ways that people wanted to receive payments, perhaps in different, currencies. We didn't see any, evidence of that. We didn't also see, which I would have liked to see, at least programs being created where they could have fintechs come in and actually apply to be able to solve some of the challenges that the government was facing during COVID-19, and that will continue to face because this has now pushed us into the realm of needing and relying more and more on digital. And I don't think we're going to see more bank branches opening up. We're going to see fewer. So I think that this has been a push that was needed, and now we need the government to respond. And so I think there are many avenues they could have taken. I just didn't see enough of that.
Yeah, we know that they can be a little bit slow to move, but organizations like us help for that.
That's exactly where we need organizations like you to help. The other thing I will add is that we did also see, this type of channeling Senator Deegan right now. But if anything, we saw the U.S. government call upon Canadian tech companies to help them. And so, I think that's just a total miss on our part because, again, as Jan said and Leah, we have incredible talent. We always have had incredible talent in this country. We're like the founding country of AI, founding country of blockchain, and we are following. We're not leading in these spaces, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, in a way, a testimony to the quality of our fintechs, but our government a bit slow to adopt. But in terms of a different stakeholder, which is also super important in the ecosystem, in terms of the funding, we were saying earlier how much is a record year in funding in fintech, but what we see, however, is that the proportion allocated to very early stage has been drying up, or the deals are a bit less there. So what's your take on supporting new ideas? How can we best support new fintechs being created?
I think there needs to be more companies like Catherine Whale and Fintech Cadence and Holt and others, and all of you as advisors and independent consultants and executives within larger corporations. We can all do our part to try to help create higher probability of success for these early stage companies. And as you noted, a lot of these companies are, remember, in their very early stages. Flinks was one of them. And to see them get to where they are, that took a lot of grit, a lot of determination and a lot of help from people like all of us. And so that has to continue. The problem is that a lot of these companies don't have money, and they can't pay people to come and advise and help them. And so without organizations like yourselves and the funding that you receive, it just wouldn't be possible, I think, to create the types of programs and infrastructure. So I think the government, needs to lend a hand and try to provide, I would just say capital, to try to continue to fuel these types of accelerators and also incubators. And then also just more funding. We've seen, 142 million for early stage investment. We're talking anyway from sort of pre-seed to Series A. Like, that's nothing. So at the end of the day, I think that there's more opportunity than ever to participate as an investor. I mean, this year was my first year to actually invest in 3 companies. And so thank you. And so, yeah, thank you very much. And the other part of, what we do in the capital mill is if we don't have the capital, we've got the smarts and the capabilities and our time. And so if a founder, values that, we'll work with them hand in hand and we'll get them to where they need to get to. And I think that's worth, a lot. So, for us, it's really important, I think, that we recognize this is a tremendous opportunity right now. Over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see amazing growth. And so if you look at it as somebody who wants to give back to the sector, see our ecosystem grow, I mean, that's what drives me every day, and the team, Philippe and Rachel, shout out to my team that's here tonight, that we get up every day and we do, and we love the work we do. The problem is that if we see more first-stage investors, we're not going to see the continued growth. That has to go hand in hand with it. And I think we're going to see syndicates being created, Alex Norman at B49, we've got a whole bunch of other people who are participating in creating these vehicles and creating avenues for people to invest early. We are doing that at MT Ventures, so really proud of the work that we're creating and also the access that we have to people for the early stage companies. So I think there is stuff happening, we just aren't necessarily seeing the momentum that we would expect. But there are no shortage of companies. A lot of great ideas, a lot of great founders, and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, and a few of them with us today, so hope you get to speak with some of them either this morning or this afternoon, this evening. So please never after this. Listen, Lena, I love speaking to you. I can listen to you all evening, but Sean is going to come to the conversation. But in conclusion, can you please tell me what you're most excited about for 2022?
Well, borderless e-commerce. I think that's super exciting. I think there's going to be more and more growth within that space. And it's not just the obvious growth that we're seeing, but there's going to be transactions and payment rails that are connecting countries. I think that's phenomenal. So we're talking about the infrastructure that enables that borderless e-commerce. The other piece that I love, I would say just sort of broadly platform as a service. When we talk about banking as a service, we're going to see wealth management as a service. We're going to see a lot of these platform plays, which are great businesses, as we all know, based on Amazon and other models. But I think that's really an exciting part of where I'm going to see a lot of growth within, I'd say, Fintech in particular. So, and I think the other thing too is that that's going to allow companies to scale and adapt and bring on a lot more customers in that way. So yeah, a lot of exciting things for those two paths.
Thank you so much, Lena, for being with us. All right, my next and final speaker for this evening, Sean Merrick, who is the CEO and co-founder of OWL. So Sean is a serial entrepreneur. He previously founded Empress Technology, which had its IPO in 2013. He later on went on to acquire Fast Studios, he with Acomon Entertainment for over $100 million. Prior to Empress, he founded multiple startups that were acquired by a large corporation. And Sean, big congratulations, you recently raised $30 million for OWL, so I think this is also worth the big round of applause. So thank you so much for being with us, Sean. First question, because Lyle asked it in the first section, are you for or against open banking? Everybody wants to know.
Who is against it? No.
Okay, that was a short and quick answer.
Let's see who the snitches are.
All right, thank you, Sean. What is the most exciting story for you in fintech this year?
Well, I mean, I think COVID was incredibly exciting for fintech, all in all, because I mean, all the traditional forms of banking, insurance, everything just shut down, and there was a huge rush to automate and digitize all of these processes, and I think it was, if we look back 10 years, one of the fastest growth years for fintech will be 2021. So the most devastating thing that's happened recently was the best thing for it.
The disruption it caused,
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree with you. We have some investors and some startups in the audience with us tonight. I'd like to know if you could tell us a little bit about how it was for you to raise your Series B.
Yeah, I mean, Jan, I don't know if he's still here, but we had this running joke. He always said you should plan to raise funds 3 to 6 months it takes. We raised our seed round in 2 weeks, our Series A round in like 1 week, and Series B actually took about 1 month to get the term sheet. I think the whole journey is I think part of my job is to be always fundraising, right? So as soon as we closed our A round, I immediately started socializing with all the growth funds, and 7 months later we closed our Series B. I've already started talking to larger growth funds for our Series C. So as long as we hit the metrics, we explain to the future investors what we're hoping to achieve, incredibly ambitious plans. But as long as we hit those KPIs and we can show the investors and build that relationship, the term sheet takes 30 minutes to put together.
Is there any specific challenges in terms of speaking with investors that may be less familiar with fintech? We think that sometimes it can be a challenge. Was that something that happened for you guys or not really?
No, I just think some investors are smart and some are dumb. It comes down.
Tell us how you feel.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have, I don't think it's a VC looking into a fintech and is not familiar with fintech. Then what are you doing, right? I just think that some are able to see past the fluff, and the models. There's an incredible amount of VCs that operate more like private equity, and they just want the numbers to go into an Excel sheet and something plausible to be spit out. And I just and some VCs just see the vision, see that try to see what you're trying to do. Sometimes the numbers don't tell the whole story. In our case, it doesn't. Because we've made some non-investable decisions. Thoughtfully. We decided, for example, I'll give you one example. We decided to sell our platform through a consumption model, not just a pure SaaS. The reason why we did that was to reduce the sales cycle. We realized that, okay, if I give a price tag of $2 million a year, sure, I can maybe push it through, but it's going to take 18 months. It's going to have to go up and down the totem pole. It has to, a CFO has to sign. The CFO is taking 20 vacations a month. And we'll never see anything. So we just go consumption model. We're sure of our platform. So in the very first 3 months, we can really prove the tool. Now the VP that's going to undersign it is not worried that he's going to lose his job if we don't perform. And we have historical data that we can back up our ROI, and away we go. Then we can write as big a deal as we want.
And touching on that, thank you for being so candid, Sean. In terms of working with FIs, and they certainly have some big influence on the market. What difference do you observe in terms of working with Canadian large institutions versus, because I know you work also with US institutions, what is the difference in dynamic that you experience there?
Yeah, I think it's very different. So for context, we're now, 7 of the top 10 large insurers in the US are our clients, and 6 of the top 10 Canadian insurers are our clients. There's a huge difference. I think in the US, everyone, culturally, they're just much more business-minded. They want to get to a quick no. And in Canada, I feel like deals just dilly-dally for way too long. I think there's no concrete yeses and nos, lots of maybes, and it just feels like taking risks on initiatives to the people that work within those institutions has all the downside and none of the upside, right? And that's the feeling you get. But I think there are ways around it. The way we go around it again is by building models where we can get them comfortable around the platform to really show them the ROI, basically for free, and then building a model against that.
So again, we see a lot of institutions being more conservators than we see in the States, a common thread that we talk about. But glad that you're able to work around it. Now, again, with Lena, we were discussing the state of funding in the early stage fintechs. You had a great race, but you're always looking for the next round. From the very early stage perspective, what do you see happening for early stage funding for fintechs in Canada?
For the companies or for the funds?
Oh, well, why don't you give us both?
Well, I think they both are going to have to look more abroad, and I think it's the right thing to do. I think the more, my opinion is, the more we try to confide this ecosystem of Canada, where Canadian funds invest in Canadian companies and Canadian companies are looking for Canadian funds, it's only going to backfire. I feel like it kills the competition. It really blinds us from all the initiatives that are happening in the US and in Europe and wherever. And it just, if the quality of the companies drop, in my opinion, because now they're really not competing with all these incredible companies abroad. And I think the one thing that's happening for seed companies, I think it's becoming more and more difficult to find funding, and the reason for that is just the abundance of funding now, right? And I know that's contrary to what it sounds, but when you have so much money, being deployed by these funds, and the funds are just getting bigger and bigger, writing a $1 million check no longer makes sense, right? So a fund that used to have, be able to deploy 30 million now needs to deploy 300 million. They're just going to start looking to Series A and Series Bs and less on that Series seed stage. Who needs to add to that anyways? But most of the seed companies fail. So I think that's a trend. I think that's one of the difficulties we're seeing this year with seed and pre-seed companies.
Is there anything that, in your opinion, could improve, or just widen the horizon to cross-border kind of investments?
That's the one I would give. I think it's just so drastic right now. Because I see with my eyes some VCs in Canada that solely invest in Canada, and some of them are good. I hope they're not here. Some of you are great, but there are some, and there are some startups that solely I was advising a company that was solely looking into Canadian funding, and it's just, to me, it's silly. And I think that needs to be addressed first and foremost.
Definitely. We know that there's tons of opportunities. It's just a matter of connecting with the right people. Hopefully you get the chance to do that tonight. All right, so time is running out, but Sean, what are you most excited about for 2022 in FinTech? Or for Al? Or for both?
Well, I'll pick Al. So selfishly, I think, again, we had, post-COVID, the only thing that's increasing, in insurance is fraud. More and more individuals. So with COVID came physical disability. With COVID came mental disability. A lot of issues arose, and more and more people. And whenever insurance claims spike, so does fraud. And this fraud is incredibly expensive. I know, like, not a lot of people talk about it, but it's an 80 billion a year problem, which you and I end up paying for, because when fraud spikes, insurance just increases the premiums. So that's what we're battling. And fraud is going to spike incredibly high this year, and we're at the forefront. We're one of the leaders now, at least in disability insurance. So I'm very excited for next year.
Well, it seems like you guys have a great year ahead. Seems like you're already working on your Series C, so I'll be looking out for the announcements.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean, for being with us this evening. All right, you guys, this is the end of the discussion for our Fintech drinks. Thank you so much for listening so attentively. I encourage you guys to come and to continue networking. The music will be back on. Thank you so much for the people who watched online. They can also go network on the Hopping platform. So very happy to have you all with us this evening.